Hello and welcome to Calm the Pharm podcast, where pharmacy business meets legal wisdom, minus the headache. In each episode, we share practical legal tips and real-life examples to help you run your pharmacy with confidence. I'm your host, Sarah Stoddart. Thanks very much for joining us. Today on the podcast, we're talking about all things fit out. In these modern times and in an effort to modernise pharmacy businesses, many pharmacies are expanding or undergoing new fit-outs. Whether you're doing this now or contemplating it in the future, there's a number of things you need to know and action, in addition to approving builders' quotes, plans, arranging tradespersons, putting up hoarding, etc. Failing to properly consider the broader implications of your fit-out can lead to serious consequences, so there is a need to really be informed and act appropriately. There's a couple of things you may not have considered about your fit-out. I'm going to look at 3 or 4 today. So starting with expansion or contraction applications. So if your new fit-out involves expanding or contracting your premises, so put another way, if your fit-out involves changing the 4 walls of your pharmacy, you're likely to be required to lodge an application under Rule 121 of the Pharmacy Location Rules, as well as a notification to your state pharmacy regulator. Failing to do so can lead to penalties under relevant legislation and also leads to headaches down the track, believe me, when your plans don't align with your approval. So you might go to sell your pharmacy, your lease doesn't align with your approval certificate, and therein becomes a huge headache and potentially delays to your transaction. So if the 4 walls of your pharmacy are changing, you need to do that. If the 4 walls aren't changing, but your address is, so perhaps you're going from shop 1 to shop 1A or shop 1 to shop 1-2, it's likely that a notice of change of details will need to be submitted. So you'll still need to notify your regulator, it's just a different pathway for that. If you're unsure whether your fit-out plan will result in an application or a notification, you should seek appropriate advice early because these regulatory processes can and do take time, and you don't want that holding up your ability to trade from your sparkling new pharmacy. The second thing to consider is your current lease obligation. So during a fit-out or expansion process, many business owners get caught up in the on-the-ground work, so with architects, designers, builders. In doing so, many overlook the need to also consult their landlord about their plans. If you lease your pharmacy business, it is likely your lease contains obligations to have any building work or premises changes approved by your landlord before you start work. If you don't, you may be in breach of your lease. It's also important to check how long the approval process takes and who's responsible for the costs of obtaining landlord's approval. More likely than not, those costs are going to be yours, so you'll need to plan and budget accordingly. The tip here is to check your lease before you commence work because it could save you time and money. Another point to check in your lease before finalising your fit-out plans is whether there's any floor load restrictions. Depending on the structure of your building, there may be restrictions on the weight or load that can be placed on the floor. This may, for example, impact on your ability to include a large robot in your fit-out plans because I believe those are pretty heavy. Leases also contain obligations regarding ensuring your contractors meet certain standards and may also limit the time of day or days of the week that the work can be carried out. Don't risk being in breach of your lease simply because you overlooked the need to check your lease. Third, your future lease obligations. Plan with the end in mind. Although you're investing a significant sum of money to improve your pharmacy now, you need to know what your obligations are at the end of your lease and ensure the steps you're taking now don't detrimentally impact on those obligations. Most leases contain make-good obligations requiring the business owner to return the premises to a certain state when the lease ends. Sometimes that's the state that the premises were in on the commencement of the lease, or maybe it's just a clean and tidy state. In making good the premises, you may be required to remove floors or repaint. So you should consider whether your fit-out plans will make compliance with those make-good obligations more difficult or onerous? And if so, you may want to choose different materials to make compliance easier down the track. Finally, number 4, employee and customer safety. Safety, of course, is paramount. Be sure to take care of your employees and customer safety at all times, including during the fit-out process. You should make sure your employees are aware of the upcoming works, how those works will impact on their work environment, and what temporary measures or steps need to be taken to ensure their safety during the fit-out process. You also need to ensure customer safety, so the level of measures to be put in place will depend on the extent of your fit-out works, but it may include the installation of appropriate hoarding, flooring mats or boards to cover gaps, cords, etc. You may also need to erect appropriate signage, redirecting customers to different access ways or paths, and notification to a change of your opening hours. So there's a lot to consider, but being informed before you start work will certainly put you ahead of the rest. If we can assist at any time, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I'll speak to you next week.